Hi everyone, my name is Mariama Lockington, and I'm going to be reading from my middle grade novel For Black Girls Like Me while you all are staying healthy at home. This book is a book about a black girl named Makeda. She's in 6th grade, and she's the only black person in her family because when she was a baby, she was adopted. So she has a mom and a dad and an older sister, and the book starts when she and her family have to move across country from their home in Baltimore, Maryland, all the way to Albuquerque, New Mexico, where her dad has gotten a new job with the symphony. And Kada has to leave behind her best friend, who's also black and adopted, and start over in the middle of 6th grade. And when things go from bad to worse in her new home, Makeda turns to singing, to writing secret messages back and forth with Lena, and to music to try to ground herself in the world. So this book is really important to me because it's also the book I needed to read when I was growing up. It's a book about a girl who is like me. I am also black and adopted into a white family. And so I wanted to write a story that was based on some of the things that I went through when I was growing up. I'm going to read from the very beginning of the book so you can get a feel for what it's like. And then afterwards, I'm hoping you'll stick around and I will walk you through a writing activity that you can do if you're someone who wants to share your voice and your story. Tumbleweeds. I am a girl, but most days I feel like a question mark. People throw their looks at me, then back at my mama, sister, and papa, who are all as white as oleander. Then they look back at me, black as a midnight orchard, and I see their puzzled faces, trying to understand where I fit. People ask me where I'm from, but I know they really mean, who do you belong to? Right now, I am on the road. Somewhere just outside of St. Louis, it is March, our second day of driving cross country from Baltimore to our new house in Albuquerque. I sit in the middle seat of the minivan with the windows cracked, my ashy legs spotted with sunshine. My older sister Eve in the seat behind me, her glossy brown hair blowing in the breeze. Mama is up front with one hand on the wheel, her violin in the passenger seat, the neck tipped down like a bottle being emptied into the sink. All of us heading west. A copper sun warming the sky, all of us singing along with the radio at the top of our lungs. And Mama has a smile on her face this morning. Her freckled cheeks flushed red as a Juneberry as she sings and rolls the front windows down so that the whole van becomes a whistle. The wind whips in and out of our throats, our eyes, our hair, and I forget about my ashy knees. I forget to miss my best friend Lena, who I've left behind. The only other girl I know who is like me, an adopted, mismatched girl. I forget to be angry at Papa for missing another family adventure, for having to fly ahead of us to start his new job with the symphony. I forget to worry about Mama and Papa always fighting these days, Mama staring wildly through windows, hardly playing her violin at all. For hours, we drive and sing the sun into its highest point in the sky. This is where I'm from, I whisper yell between verses. And for a moment, I hope we might stay like this forever. Me, Mama, and Eve, a tangled smear of color, barreling past ghost towns and highway markers. 3 tumbleweeds just blowing in the wind. So I will stop reading there and let you all dive into the book on your own. But I do want to share some of the big questions that Makeda is trying to figure out in her journey in this book. So the first question that Makeda is trying to figure out is, what does it mean when you don't really fit in at home? Makeda has moved to this new place. She's in a new house. There are a lot of challenges going on in her family, and she feels love, but she's also starting to have dreams and questions about where she came from, about her biological family. And she's a little bit scared to share her experiences with her family because she's afraid people won't understand. So what does it mean to not feel like you fit in at home sometimes, to feel like you don't belong? The second thing Kata's trying to figure out is, what does it mean when you also sometimes don't fit in at school? Makeda is the new kid. Maybe some of you have been the new kid before. And so she has to navigate a bunch of different questions from her new peers at school and has to figure out who are her real friends and who are not her friends. And she deals with some bullying along the way and has to figure out how to stick up for herself. Lastly, Kata is also trying to figure out what it means to have the blues or to live with someone in her family who also has the blues. So sometimes we have big feelings, we feel sad or we feel happy, and we have to figure out how to work through those, how to communicate those, and sometimes how to ask for help. And so Kata has to figure that out as well in this book, and it's a big thing she's struggling with. This is a book about finding courage, about finding the guts to be who you are and to share who you are with the people who love you, even when it's not easy and even when it feels scary. So I hope you will enjoy and read for Black girls like me, and let me know what you think. One of my favorite things is to hear from young readers about what they thought of the book. And if you go to my website for blackgirlslikeme.com, you can actually submit a letter to me, either by mail or by email, and I love to respond to young readers about their thoughts about my books. So I hope you'll do that while you're staying healthy at home. So for Black Girls Like Me is about Kata trying to find her voice, trying to figure out where she belongs and what home means, where home is. She's between two homes and trying to figure out how to build a home in Albuquerque. So today, if you want to write with me, I'm going to share an activity where you can write your own I am from poem or story or comic if you're someone that likes to draw or doodle. For this activity, all you're going to need is a blank sheet of paper to start with, a pen or a pencil or a marker, whatever you like to write with. And what I'm going to have you do is separate that sheet of paper into 4 different squares like this. In the first square, I want you to write my room, so the place where you sleep. In the second square, I want you to write my house, the place that you live, whether it's apartment or house with other people. And then I also, in your third square, want you to write my street. So if you don't live on a street, this can also mean your land, your neighborhood, what is around the house, the place where you live with people. And in the last square, I want you to write my world. So one of the things that writers do when they're trying to make a story really rich, where they're trying to make it so when you read it, you feel like you're there, is they use details and they use the 5 senses to make sure they're really describing everything that's happening in the story. So those 5 senses are: what do you hear around you? What do you smell in the air? What do you see around you? What do you taste? And this one can be a little tricky, but what are some of the flavors that make up the places that you live in or that your community is in, right? And then what do you feel in your house? Either feelings or actual physical things. You have a lot of books in your house, so your house feels like the pages of a book. So you have to use your imagination. So those are the 5 senses. What you're going to do is, in each box, you're going to set a timer for maybe 1 minute, and you're going to write a list or draw a bunch of little doodles or write a full sentence, whatever you like, about the things that you hear when you're in your room, you smell, you see, you taste, and you feel. And maybe you won't get all of those. But for example, do you have a lot of fluffy stuffed animals in your room, or do you have a favorite fluffy blanket? You could say, my room feels like the soft cloud of my blanket, right? So use your imagination. 5 senses. What do you feel, taste, hear, smell in your room? Then once you've done that, set the timer again for 1 minute and go to the next square. What do you feel, taste, smell, hear, see in your house? So go a little bit bigger in the place where you live. You guessed it. The next square, we're going to do the same thing. You're going to zoom out. What are the feelings and smells and tastes and sounds that you hear when you're in your neighborhood, when you're on your street? And last box, I'm going to ask you to use your imagination and think about your world. What do you hear, smell, taste, feel, see in your world every day? And you're staying healthy at home right now, so this might be a little different, but you can use your imagination, or you can think about what your world looked like before you were staying healthy at home. Use your imagination. That's what writers do. So when you filled out your 4 squares, it's now time to write your poem, your story, your song, or draw out your I am from piece of writing. And as an example, I'm going to give you an example of what Kata's I am from piece of writing might sound like. She wrote more of a poem or a song. You might draw something. You might write a story. But this is Kata's I am from poem. I am from a room the color of sunflowers, the smell of thick oatmeal cooking in the kitchen, I am from the low notes of Papa playing cello in the sunroom and the click of computer keys when I email my best friend Lena. I am from a street covered in red dirt and desert cactus. I am from a world full of questions and songs. So I hope you have enjoyed reading and writing with me today. Please keep sharing your voice. Please keep sharing your stories. We need them. And have a good day staying healthy at home.